All right, welcome to our next section. Last week we talked about rational expressions and how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide them. Today we're going to talk about rational equations. So the big difference today is that things are going to have equal signs that we're going to have to solve for. We'll start the same way we did when we were adding and subtracting. We're going to make sure everything's factored, find the least common denominator, and then this is where it's going to get a little bit different. We're going to multiply the numerator by the least common denominator. So not the top and the bottom, but just the top. That'll cancel out anything that's on the bottom. We should be able to simplify and then solve for our variable after that. But most importantly, don't forget that we need to check for extraneous solutions. Now remember when we were talking about multiplying and dividing, we talked about things that can't work for that equation. And that's any time that the bottom is equal to 0. So x equals 0 and 5x equals 0. Both things are not allowed to happen. Well, thankfully, both of them means that 0 is not a solution. So when we're done solving, we need to double check and see if any of our answers fall in the things we know cannot be a solution. If they do, we call it an extraneous solution. It doesn't mean we did anything wrong, it just that answer, while we did all the work right to get it, isn't going to work. So for our first example, our least common denominator, well, something they can all multiply to is 5x. So we'll multiply the top of each of them by 5x. So 2 times 5x over x is equal to x minus 1 times 5x over 5x minus 1 times 5x over x. We can go ahead and cross off to simplify. An x over an x cancels out. An x over an x and a 5 over a 5, and an x over an x. Now we can simplify and do some math. 2 times 5, 10. This just left me with an x minus 1, and then 1 times 5 is minus 5. And then finish solving for x. 10 is equal to x minus 1 minus 5. I don't need those parentheses. 10 is equal to x minus 6. Add 6 to both sides. X is equal to 16. Double check, is that in my list of things that cannot be a solution? No, so I know 16 is my answer. Let's look at example number 2. Something they can all multiply by. Well, 3 can multiply to get to 6, 2 can multiply to get to 6, and 6 is obviously something that can be multiplied to get to 6. My least common denominator is going to be 6. And then remember, we take the highest exponent for each thing, so x squared. Multiply all of the tops by my least common denominator. So 3x plus 4 times 6x squared over 3x squared is equal to 5 times 6x squared over 2x squared plus 1 times 6x squared all over 6x. Next is where it might get tricky and I've got to simplify. So in my first fraction, x squared is going to cross off with an x squared. And then think about simplifying. What's 6 divided by 3? Well, 6 divided by 3 leaves me with simply a 2. Then I look at my next fraction. X squared cancels out with x squared. And then 6 divided by 2 cancels out to leave me with 3. And the last one, my 6's are going to cancel out. X squared, the squared will cancel out with one of the x's on the bottom. And I rewrite. So I have 2 times 3x plus 4 is equal to 5 times 3 is 15. plus, over here I have an x left. And then I can solve my equation. Distribute. So 6x plus 8 is equal to 15 plus x. Move my x to the other side. Move my 8 to the other side. (15 minus 8 is 7. And then divide both sides by 5. X is equal to 7 over 5. Oh, but I forgot. What are things that are not solutions?